All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Link Cable podcast. So, welcome.
We
Thanks
made
for
it.
joining. Yeah, made
5.
it to 5. It's a milestone. Uh,
Woo!
we're,
Link Cable milestone. Happy
yeah,
birthday.
yeah, happy birthday to us. So, thanks so much for joining. My name is Alex. I'll be your host today. I'm joined by the Link Cable crew. We got Zai, Kevin, and Jacob here.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
All right.
Jacob's a monkey today, if you can see on the
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah. No, Jacob, I've grown up with Jacob, and that photo is exactly what he looks like. So very autobiographical today. So, all right. So welcome to the show, everyone. So today we got a whole lot of things to talk about. But before we get into that, Kevin, where can the folks find us?
We are live on our weekly YouTube and Twitch channels. You can find us there, chat with us. We're not on Mixer yet, and we probably never will be at this rate, so don't look forward to it.
Hopefully, we will be soon at least. We're trying to get there.
It's already rough enough with 2 trying to get them streamed everywhere, but we're working on it.
All right, guys, and thanks so much for coming and joining us in the live chat today. So we'll be reading along your comments, so make sure you're posting, and we'll be checking them out during the show.
Yeah, and so today we'll be taking a quick look at the reception on the Xbox Series X showcase, news on CD Projekt Red's upcoming game with Cyberpunk 2077, the sales for Animal Crossing, and taking a few minutes to discuss our favorite games since we promised that since the almost from the beginning, and we'll actually make time to discuss that here.
Yeah, it's a long-standing promise we need to fulfill. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Xbox Series X live stream that they had last week, where they showed off the first, and I'm doing air quotes for the people who are only listening to audio, gameplay of some Series X games.
Oh.
So I think we all watched it. I think we were all kind of made fun of it a whole bunch. But I just want to go real quick. Here's what Aaron Greenberg from Microsoft had to say. So responding to the blowback, where the video on YouTube was downvoted 23,000 times compared to only 18,000 upvotes.
Yeah, it was getting downvoted fast. We were watching
very fast.
Zahi and Jeff were all watching live. It was like... It started off by, everyone was happy, and then I was just downvote.
It was just like immediate. All of a sudden, like we got like half an hour into it, and bam, the downvotes just
it was
poured.
Pretty sad.
Right. So Aaron Greenberg says that that was on Microsoft. They set some wrong expectations and fully owns it and says that's on us. So it was a 27-minute show that felt like it dragged on forever. The big thing that they had promised was a gameplay reveal of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which Ubisoft had revealed just a few days ago. But I don't know what Microsoft considers to be gameplay, because I don't remember seeing any gameplay. I don't know. What were you guys' thoughts on the show?
Kevin, I'll leave it to you for first.
So we watched it live. We did our little stream for it, and it was... very misleading, and we were expecting... I know Jeff was with us, and he's a big Assassin's Creed guy now that he's been playing Odyssey, and the gameplay we got was just like a cinematic trailer. It wasn't even...
Yeah.
And that was like the big reveal that they kept to the end, and everyone was waiting for. But everything else, too, was just... There was no gameplay. There was no, like... You didn't see UI with a shooting reticle on the screen thinking that it was live. Nothing. It was just a bunch of videos. So... I mean, maybe it was all, like, rendered on the actual system, and it was running off of it, but, I mean... To me, I don't consider it fun gameplay or actual, like, interesting gameplay unless you see them playing it, and we didn't get any of that.
Right.
So, lies.
It would have been nice. It would have been really nice if, have that in the trailer, like in your showcase. That's the trailer you show, and then say, "Hey, if you want to stay on, we're going to do like an extended Let's Play of like an early part of the game, and then people can choose to watch that after." But like. You're right. Like we never got to see any gameplay.
Nothing.
I have no idea how this game plays. I assume it plays like the most recent Animal Crossing, Assassin's Creed games. It looked like a few more seconds of the trailer we got last week.
People were saying it was like 3 to 5. I'm like, that's like different moments of the trailer. I'm like, no way, it's that little, but still, it wasn't exactly significant enough for it to matter where it counts.
I mean, if they got rid of that word gameplay and they were advertising, marketing for just more video footage or anything else other than gameplay, I think it would have been fine. But when you say gameplay, people are expecting a dude playing the game and you can watch what he's doing, but that was not happening at all. Unless next gen is about to blow our freaking minds and that's an actual gameplay, but I don't think that's the truth. So, shame.
I think one way you could have done it better is drop the word gameplay first of all completely, but also just like, and this is on Ubisoft, but don't announce it a few days before. Save that trailer for this event. It would have been huge. Like it would have been like, oh, okay, we got like, all these other games. We got Dirt 5. We got Vampire the Masquerade. Can't remember any of the other ones. And then you've got
how memorable they were.
yeah. And then you've got, all right, and now we got one more thing for you, and it's that brutal Assassin's Creed video that if you watched last week's show, we were all like, our jaws hit the floor. Like we were just blown away by it. So, yeah, no, it was, I think we all agree, a bunch of missteps there. Jacob, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the games look fine. Like, just the trailers themselves, like, the games were interesting, at least. That was kind of my takeaway of it. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's nice to see one trailer after another. But I was, like, to a point that, like, I think it was, like, 3-4 games in, and I was like, hey, like, when will I see actual gameplay? They really, again, like, I think we discussed this enough, is that, they made a point to say that this was going to be gameplay. Mm-hmm. And all we got was cinematic trailers. And, like, again, I'm very excited for the games they're bringing, but at the same time, I would have liked to see how next gen is going to take that that next step in comparison to what current gen is, because they made a point for Ubisoft as well, like a few days ago, whenever they showed that trailer, like, yes, it's the trailer is rendered on Xbox Series X, whatever, but that's also coming on current gen hardware, isn't it not? I believe it's also coming on current gen hardware for Assassin's Creed. Yeah, and same thing with Scarlet Nexus. So it's like, well, you're bringing these game announcements, which are all great, but you're not showing what the difference between current gen and next gen is. Right. And that was kind of my biggest beef.
Well, they also didn't really define. Well, the whole part of next gen is what we don't know dates and any of that. So when next gen's coming, and we have no dates in anything they showed. I think they showed a couple dates, or it was just generic, but it was no like November 15th. This game is coming. Like, it was just teasers.
That would have been good.
It would have been good to give us. Maybe because they don't want us to give a date. I guess as third party, they don't want to give a date where they might give away a date of the console. So maybe that was kind of some of the struggle they had. But
so there was something. This was in a press release that came out after, and I posted it over on linkcable.com. But so Dirt 5 in their press release says it is coming in October for PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So. Obviously, we don't know when these systems are coming out, but for Codemasters to come out and say, yes, Dirt 5, one of the games, actually, the game they spent way too much time on at this show, we got 2 looks
real
at Dirt 5, and
real weather, real cars. Can't wait.
I think my reaction at the time was there was a Dirt 2 and 4 through 4. I hadn't even heard of these. But I mean, I'm sure that the Dirt community is very...
The Dirt community. That sounds like an insult. That Dirt community.
They're the community for the game named Dirt. Are passionate for it, but like it's not... I don't know. It seemed like a weird way to lead off, especially when you consider that Microsoft has a top tier racing franchise, and yes, this was the third party event, we get that, but a Forza game coming to Xbox is going to happen, and Dirt is going to look like Dirt compared to it. Like it's I don't know, I don't want to judge a game by its first trailer, but it's
in a gameplay setting.
Exactly. So I think we can all pretty much say
it sucked.
It would sucked. Yeah,
it sucked a lot.
To be as diplomatic as possible on it, it sucked. But I want to do like a little mock interview for you guys. I want to go around the table. I got a few questions about this event for you, so I want to kind of like talk about what we really liked, what we didn't like, what we wanted to see, and also I want to give a rating. I think. This is the first time we ever did this, so the viewers at home could kind of understand what our opinions kind of what a baseline for it is. So,
Okay.
are you guys down for that?
Pressure, guys,
Thank
right?
Yeah, no pressure.
He's
You
springing
guys
this
had
on
no
us
idea about
live.
this.
We didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
Even in our pre-talk
Yeah.
before the show.
Yeah, there's going to be a talent portion, and there's going to be a swimsuit competition.
Yeah.
Hell yes. I'm
yeah,
down
Do
for
that,
that.
Mike. Got that
Yeah.
quarantine bod going on.
Yeah.
Same here.
We'll get. Yeah, I'm sure we'd get flagged for that. But anyway, so Jacob, I'll start with you.
Mhm.
If you, what game of this entire show do you think looked the most next gen? Because yeah, there was a lot of games that like they're releasing on this current gen and next gen. If you had one pick out of this entire show, which one would you say that is a next gen game?
Right, that's difficult to say because they were all cinematic trailers. I would actually, yeah, I would actually have to say, and I'm sure this will come up like 100 times for every of your questions, but Scarlet Nexus, because I like they had screenshots after, and it's an art style and it's a very like visually appealing look
Yeah.
that a lot of games have already done in the past, but there was always like that, where you can tell it's not like full anime, we'll say. But
It's not
yeah,
full
like-
anime. It's a little
No,
anime.
Just a
There's
little
elements
anime, just a little.
trying to tell like, yeah, you can tell like, yeah, that they're going for that look, but there's the consoles had sort of limitations to fulfill that. But just looking at it through the trailer and then through the screenshots themselves, and again, this will be something I'll be bringing up this week on Link Cable. But just the overall look of the game looked really great, and I'm really excited to see it in action. I think, at first I thought it was a Platinum game. They had like the Bandai Namco
Yeah.
banner. I was like, oh, all right, so they're talking about Tales. Great, I'm super excited.
Yep.
And it's like a completely different game. I'm like, all right, cool. I have two Bandai Namco games to look forward to.
Oh, it's true. There is a Tales game coming too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bandai Namco, I believe, is the publisher on Elden Ring, which we know nothing about that one.
So excited.
I think they're
I think
the
they're hoping
publisher.
we forgot about it because they're like, we don't got anything.
Yeah.
We show George R.R. Martin again because that's all we got. The picture of him.
Zai, same question. What game was the most next gen to you?
So I guess to me, the game that I thought looked the most next gen was actually the game Scorn. The H.R. Geiger looking esque game where it was, I thought that looked like visually a lot. Visually, just it was kind of interesting, and I've never really seen something be done like that on modern games, more like modern as in right now. And I'm kind of excited to see how they can make it as, weirdly Lovecraftian and just like the body horror that kind of got inspiration, I guess, from like The Thing and, those kind of Body Snatchers even just had that feeling of creepiness. And I kind of like that from the game. So that was something I really enjoyed from the entire performance. To be honest, it was honestly even one of the few games that really stuck out for me, just because visually how creepy and grotesque it looked.
What was the name of that?
Scorn.
Scorn. I'm trying to. I don't think they did a very good job identifying which each game was, because they either played the trailer and then the name wouldn't usually come up to the very end of it, and you didn't know what you were watching in the first place, and the name comes by real quick, and then you just kind of forgot. Like I like when they would put the name at the bottom while it's playing and telling you what it is, and it was kind of live the whole time, so you kind of related, oh yeah, this weird thing is this Scorn or something. Because some of the games I found interesting, but like the top-down cyberpunk-looking type game, I have no idea what it's called, but it looked cool.
Oh.
The Ascent?
Yeah, that's...
See, exactly, I don't know.
Nice...
Not to hijack the question for Zahi there, but...
No, it would definitely be The Ascent. Oh, and regardless, for me personally, I didn't get to give some thoughts on the show itself. I honestly felt how it went was just... It could have been a shorter show, but for some reason it just got dragged out.
Yeah, but if it was any shorter, it
was
been 5 minutes.
It was only 27 minutes.
It did not feel like that. Like gameplay not showing aside. There was too much talking at some points. And at the end with the medium, they just really focused in on that game more than any other. Like they had the developer of the medium there for what felt like 10 minutes, and it was just getting a bit repetitive. Like, go on to the next thing already. But it's just, I feel like forgetting the gameplay lack of in the show. I don't think their structure, you know what, and totally understanding given the situation where the gaming industry is in right now and showing off performances, all that taken into consideration. But I just don't think they had like a good schedule of their shows. Yeah. Like Kevin was saying, it felt like we didn't even know what we were seeing for a minute there. Like no one was there to introduce, all right, this is Scorn, our next whatever, this is The Ascent, this is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you know, like that. And it, like not even for a long time. That was just my personal take on it.
It was, to add to what you're saying, it was neat that they kind of would, I think they had that thing where it's like, we just want to throw game after game after game and kind of keep it going, which is good, but they just threw trailers of games we had no idea what it was. Like if it was like sequels of games we knew already, it was like, okay, yeah, this is a new Gears game, and this is the Fable game, we know. But when you're putting like random stuff out there and we don't know what it is, it was very difficult to follow, difficult to remember, and it wasn't even real gameplay. So that's just yeah.
So, Kevin, what game was the most next gen in your mind?
Like next gen visually, or next gen like just
in however way. I mean, there was little shown on these games, I guess, but
I mean, I would probably say Assassin's Creed by the gameplay videos that we saw. Mm-hmm. I think that definitely looks next gen, and what some of the interview stuff, I don't know if that's counted in the 20 whatever minutes they had, but they talked about how you're going to be building like almost like a village and building it up and working with tribes or something. So it does seem like they're putting a lot of effort into it. And I think there's 15 studios working on this, which is like a ton more, or maybe even more than that. It was a ton of studios that are working on this game trying to put together, and they're trying to make it shorter than Odyssey and Origins, which are both huge games. So for this game to have more studios working on it than some of the previous games and being shorter, I feel like they're going to put a lot more depth into what you're able to do versus just longevity of leveling up and doing random crap. The game that I don't feel looked the most next gen but caught my attention the most was Vampire Masquerade 2.
It was a creepy trailer.
It was a super creepy trailer. The game itself did not look very next gen at all. Like it looked like it was a PS4 trailer they were playing. But
even if
I don't know if it was just the music, the visuals, or what, but that one got me like, okay, I want to play that. That was pretty cool. I'd like to tell you other games I was excited to play, but I don't remember what they were called because like that Cyberpunk game, like we just discussed, I don't remember the name of it, but that also looked fun. That Medium game, which was like a psychological thriller type creepy game, looked okay. I did look that one up after. That is by the team that did, I think, the Blair Witch Project game.
Yes. Yep.
So nice. I played that for a little bit. It was pretty good. And then the very first game that they opened up with, I still do not know the name of it.
It was Bright Memory Infinite, Kevin, and that's awesome because I just wanted to call back to it. That one actually looked pretty cool. They had like that was a nice trailer to show at the beginning.
I agree. If that's gameplay, that's cool. But if that's just a video and then we look at the game and it looks like a dated looking kind of game, then I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
So I found out about something I didn't know about that game at the time of watching the show. I'd never heard about it before. It's on Steam right now.
Okay, I forgot you mentioned that after the show. So I didn't forgot to look into it because I went right back to work. But did you see? Okay, let's do a live look at this game. What is it called again?
Bright Memory Infinite.
Bright Memory Infinite. All right, let me look at these things and we'll give you a. So is this? It's like a Korean or Chinese game or something.
I believe China.
Okay, yeah, because I see it's not in English.
China is developing a lot of new games in recent years, actually.
Yep, they're a growing market for it.
The pictures do look like that's real gameplay. So, I mean, that might be pretty impressive if that's what we're going to get. That does look pretty next gen.
I believe they released a 27-minute gameplay demo of Bright Memory Infinite. So that's, I think they did that post-show, actually. So that's something our viewers could go check out.
So is this on Steam now, or is this only on Steam in other countries? I don't know if I see it on the U.S. store or Canadian store.
It was available. I think it was like $15, like $14.99 for the early access.
Oh, it's early access.
So
I don't know why I can't find
it's not.
Here, though. I see it's $10 right now.
Oh wow!
Maybe I'll pick that up, and then we could do a group review at it next week in the show.
Sure.
Nice.
So I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's a good
All right,
idea.
yeah, that's my 2 takes on it, and those are the games I'm looking
All
forward
right.
to.
All right. It's funny that you kept mentioning that Cyberpunk top-down game because that's my game. That's my choice for the one that looked the most next gen. Is the Ascent.
Oh, so cool.
So it's that density of the world, right? Like that's what is I find is really interesting in it because you're walking around and it's like we've seen top-down action RPG games before, but this one it's like the world is so alive. It's that to me was like, oh, that's going to be the power of next gen is these denser worlds where there's just more happening. Got me really much more excited for Cyberpunk 2077 because I was like, oh, if Cyberpunk, a game that I assume has a bigger production value than the Ascent or a bigger budget, I was like, oh wow, like I can't wait for that game. We'll talk about Cyberpunk in a bit, but so I'll move on to question number 2, and Zai, I'll start with you this time.
Ooh.
So this being the third-party showcase for Microsoft, what game do you think was missing? We know a bunch of games that it may not have been said they're coming to Series X, but we assume they are. What game would you have liked to see a fresh look at?
As a third-party game that's not Microsoft exclusive, the game I would have to give it to is Elden Ring.
Yep.
I 100%. I'm a huge From Software fan and a fan of George R. R. Martin's works with what's it called, Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
But small series. Not many people know about it. Only it was kind of on the DL.
Kind of on the DL.
If you were really into sci-fi, maybe you'd watch it. But no, Elden Ring is the game I really think that should have been at the conference. When the trailer came out for it about either last E3 or the E3 before, and
the last E3.
The last E3, and all we had. I'm really digging the vibe of it. Apparently, it's going to be more of like an open world Dark Souls kind of aesthetic. That's set in like Irish Gaelic environments. That's what the pipe has been feeding info about. So I'm really excited for that, and I think that's something that they really missed an opportunity to show it at this kind of a conference with this many people. Mm-hmm. Would have been a banger to have. I would have been happy for no gameplay trailer. Just show me something.
Yeah, even like a confirmation that it was coming to Series X. Like at this point, it's
anything.
I think you can safely assume that it's not going to be a current gen only game.
No,
but
why it's a Nintendo Switch exclusive?
God.
Switch and Stadia.
It's actually just
exclusive.
a card game.
Imagine it is a Stadia exclusive.
Wouldn't that really just screw with everybody?
I'd do it.
Jacob,
yeah, that's my pick.
Lovely. No, that's a good one. Jacob, what about you? What game do you think was missing?
The one that we're going to be talking fairly shortly, Cyberpunk 2077. I know they've already announced that there's going to be, a big blowout coming in later. Was it June? Like mid-June?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that would be a great way to, again, get not necessarily have more people get excited for it, but I feel as Cyberpunk 2077 should have been either the closer or the opener for this event.
Absolutely.
Could have been, and then you just say, oh, and then stay tuned in June for the blowout. They don't need to show much, but they could just say, hey, this. Just reaffirming this is also coming to the Xbox Series X, and that if you have an Xbox One, you buy it there, then you know that you can carry over or you can download it towards that new console. Which again, it is a new service that next gen seems to be pushing out for most of their titles. So it could have been a great way to incorporate those elements for and giving us more of an understanding of what next gen may be. But again. I just wanted to see more Cyberpunk 2077, and I was kind of hoping that would have been in the show. And at first, whenever they showed the Ascent, I was like, oh, great, Cyberpunk 2077 has aliens and stuff. And I'm like, oh, no, this is a different game, but cool. But yeah, I think that game could have been shown and could have maybe helped out the flow of new trailers that we received, have a familiar...
They didn't have any... You're exactly right. Jake, they had very little that felt familiar, and I think with that kind of an audience, you needed to put something a little more familiar to catch them.
Yeah, I think it's part of that this is the start of a new generation, right? So all the big projects or big franchises, most publishers like to hold those back when the technology matures a little bit, and they just kind of like send out their first. You see it all the time with new console generations where it's like, oh, this is our smaller project. The expectations are a bit lower. Like, it won't blow people away, but we're not sure yet of how we're going to use the power of this new machine, right? And I think that's what we saw at this show was like, oh, these are your launch games. Like, these are the games that are like early next gen games. And it's also in a weird spot where all these games are going to have to work on both generations, right? So like they can't fully go into the next cycle when they're already promised to be coming to PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah. So it was a weird show for that, I'd say. Just a lack of pure next gen. That's why I wanted to ask that previous question, like what was the most next gen thing? But cool. So we've got Cyberpunk, we've got Elden Ring. Kevin, what's your
so
pick?
This has nothing to do about games that I wish I would have seen, but it's more about games I'm surprised we didn't see. I'm surprised we didn't see anything about the new Call of Duty coming out at the end of the year. Because they haven't officially come out, as far as I know, and said, hey, we got a Black Ops this year, which I know everyone's thinking it's what it is. Black Ops 5, is that the right number?
5, yeah.
So I'm a little surprised
Are we on
they
5?
didn't come out and say anything about that, especially when we had the big hitters with, Madden came out and talked about that. We already know. We know there's Call of Duty coming. I was thinking that they may possibly now be working closer with Sony, and they do that like exclusive, like buy your season pass here, you get content first on PS4 or PS5, so maybe that's why Xbox didn't have it. But I was surprised not to see that. And the other thing I was thinking maybe we might hear or see something about the new Grand Theft Auto coming out, because we keep hearing about little bits of pieces of Grand Theft Auto 6 here and there, but no anything official, anything like that. And I know that the Rockstar's been working pretty close with Microsoft, it looks like, with Game Pass and all that, because they had GTA 5 on there, and now they've got Red Dead 2 on there. So, I don't know. I was a little surprised, but there's still more to come in June and July, so you never know.
Right.
And yourself, Alex?
So Biden, my copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake just showed up.
Woo.
Finally. It's
Finally, it's
somewhere
here.
In the back.
I wish we had sound effects or something to put, like, a choir singing Hallelujah, because it's 6 episodes in. We haven't heard anything about that game from you.
Yeah. So I just got it. I haven't had a chance to sit down. I want time to sit down. I want to just play the first 20 minutes or something. But I was admiring the box. And on the box it says PlayStation exclusive until some date in April 2021.
Really?
And I thought to myself, could it be coming to Series X?
Dun, dun, dun.
And I would have said that this would have been a perfect event to be like, hey, in a year from a month ago, we'll have Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox Series X.
That would be smart.
Yeah, because it's there's a sticker on the box, and this is kind of, I like these weird gaming things. I like having them like handy. It's like, oh, okay, it's exclusive for now. It's probably coming to PC. That's probably where its next home is going to be, kind of like Death Stranding. And was it Horizon Zero Dawn? Yep. But Square Enix has shown a lot in the last few years that they don't particularly like the console exclusivity model anymore. They like to put their games on as many systems as possible. That was my pick. I was expecting that, just kind of a bit of a callback to like E3s, like in the Xbox 360 era. I don't know if you guys remember, but like whenever they would bring Hideo Kojima on stage at the Microsoft event, and they were like, "Oh, we got Metal Gear Solid."
Oh, the dude bros are hanging out with those cool Asian guys now. This is it. We do have someone to pull in on the chat real quick. Jaren in the chat, who was our guest host, I think, last week. So welcome back, Jaren.
Correct.
He's saying Civilization coming to Series X. It is a third-party title, and it is on consoles. I think Civilization's on Switch, and it might actually be on the current gen stuff. So, I
believe it is.
Yeah, Civ 5 could definitely go on Series X. I think it'd be a great platform for it. It's one of those games. It's like I like the Civilization games. I hate playing them with a controller. I want a mouse and keyboard. So
yeah, I know.
An iPad. I have it on iPad actually. I have Civ 5 on iPad, and I play it when I'm on the treadmill. Yeah.
Cool. So my next to last question. So the penultimate question. What was your game of the show? What was the game that you came out of this being like, I want this? It's the best one out of all these. Kevin, I'll start with you.
Probably Bloodlines Masquerade. Probably the one I'm most interested to play. I think it looks something very different. I only played the original one that came out years and years ago a little bit, so I don't have a huge background of it, but I like the universe, what they were showing us. And then my second maybe is probably Assassin's Creed because it does look pretty badass.
Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Fair. Cool. Zai?
So I'm really torn right now between Scorn and Bright Memory Infinite. I like the aesthetic of it. I like the fact that it's kind of like in more of an Asian setting. That's not something too common for like modern sci-fi shooters, which I think is a really cool concept. So those are the two that's getting it. I'm a Lovecraftian guy, and I like me some shooters.
When I first saw the Bright Memory trailer, my first thought, like, this is such like an obscure game. It went to Red Steel on the Wii because that game had the shooting and the sword play, and I was like, I was like, they're not bringing back Red Steel, but it just made me think of it. That was not a very great game, but yeah, no, it's a good one. And Jacob, what about you?
Real quick, I'm gonna jump at. Sorry, Jacob, to cut you off, but Steve in the chat jumped in and said Corvus looks good. I don't want to say this.
Corvus. Look, I was actually gonna say.
Remind
really
me and hopefully everyone else who forgot what this was. Which game was that?
Corvus was like a Star Fox-esque game where you're like your Rogue Squadron kind of thing. That looked really cool.
This game even was.
It is pronounced Chorus. I got the press release and they have it as a V. V is a stylized U.
It's a stylized U for some reason. It is Chorus.
Yeah, so it's a space shooter. It reminded me a bit of like Elite Dangerous. Was kind of the what the vibe I got from it, where it's like you have this RPG element to it. That one, Elite Dangerous, is more like just space bureaucracy, the game, but like this seemed like there's a story to it, and you're building up a ship and flying around and blowing stuff up. It looks really cool. Like, it looks like, going back to the next gen question, it looks fairly next gen.
It does actually fairly.
But yeah, so Jacob, what was your game of show? I think I already know the answer, but
yeah. I mean, you could just go back and look and read my review of Astral Chain and Devil May Cry, but Scarlet. I mean, that I love hack and slash games, especially in that style too. So yeah, I'm really excited to see it, and it's coming to PS4, PS5, PC. So I mean, yeah, I can pick it up whenever, depending if I decide to go next gen right away or not. Then at least I have the option to pick it up. But yeah, no, I just find it was very vibrant, and again, just bring back to the similarities to Astral Chain. Like I just love the bright and colorfulness of that game, and how they use the bright and then the dark aesthetics at the same time. So I think that's going to be a really great game, and if I know it's different publishers, but if it's anything like Astral Chain, Bayonetta, or Devil May Cry, I mean that's a win for me. So.
Yeah, well, it's being developed by the Tales team, and I don't think they've done many hack and slash games. Like, they've really just done the traditional RPGs, so it's going to be really interesting to see what their take on it. You're right with the colors. Like, it almost felt like a bit of like a palette cleanser during the show, where we were getting all these really dark, really like a lot of horror games. We were getting all these like really dark and gritty things, and here comes this bright, colorful anime game, and it was like, oh wow, like that immediately got your attention. I got a lot of you're right, Astral Chain. I got a lot of Code Vein vibes from it too.
Very much so.
All right, and then wrap it up. My game of show was one of the only games in a franchise that is established to show it. It was Yakuza Like a Dragon. Yeah, like the Yakuza games are bonkers. Like, you guys need to play them if you haven't. Like, they are.
I feel like it's like I don't even know where to start.
Well, a lot of them are remakes. So what they did was they were releasing them and they weren't selling a whole lot. So back on like the I think PS2 was the earlier ones, but like PS3 days, they were selling them and they weren't really moving a lot of copies. A lot of people weren't interested. And it was like pulling teeth to get Sega to bring them over to North America. And then Sega, after I think Yakuza 6, they had this new engine. It was just absolutely gorgeous for current gen at the time, and they were like, yeah, okay, we got to put all our games on it. So they started remaking the older Yakuza games in it. So I think any of the ones that have the Kiwami branding are remakes of the older Yakuza games in the Yakuza 6 engine.
Okay.
Whoa.
And then Like a Dragon is it still has that Yakuza gameplay where it's like you're walking around and you're like picking fights basically, but it is an action adventure type game with brawler elements, but it's more arcadey. It has like more like it's like Street Fighter's version of fighting. It's like you can shoot a fireball at someone if you power up enough. So yeah, to see that game was coming to Series X, I think it's coming to current gen systems too. But I was like, oh, I'm down. I'm really hyped for this.
And sorry, just a quick point on that too. I recently bought a Yakuza game online on Amazon, and you can get dirt cheap at this point. Like, you know, and I got a special edition one.
Nice.
Again, it's coming in, so I don't want to pull my phone right now, but it's coming in. But like, like I got a steel case, and I got 2 shot glasses with it. You know, for $28, and most games nowadays, where like any special editions that you get, you know, you're looking at close to $99 for that. So if you're looking to get into Yakuza games, I think, you know, an easy way to do it is just get those special editions for like half the price of any game right now, and you're getting your money's worth.
I feel like I've got some of them. I know they give them away sometimes, but I never know which ones are remakes or which ones are just out of order. I don't know.
Yeah. It's also fairly big news that the Yakuza series has traditionally been PlayStation exclusive. They've come to PC as well, but they very rarely, I don't think ever, have shown up on Xbox. So to have Like a Dragon be coming to the Series X is fairly interesting news. Anyway, I would definitely encourage people, both listening and on the show, to check out Yakuza. It's very, very good. So I got one last question, and then we'll move on to something else. So if you had to grade this show, so we can use the grade school's F through A plus ranking. If you had to grade this show, what grade would you give it? I'll get it started for this one. I would give it a C plus. I think Microsoft, like Aaron Greenberg said, definitely set unrealistic expectations. I think we all expected to see, at least for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, someone playing the game controller in hand. But I think you look at you take the games out of the context they were presented in. I don't think any of the games are particularly bad or will end up being bad. They were all solid games. I know, like, ripped on Dirt 5 a little bit earlier. I'm sure it's a fine game. I have nothing against them doing that. I think the way it was presented.
The Dirt community, so.
We've lost the Dirt
the Dirt community is pissed. We're done.
Forza is a better racing game, so we'll attach ourselves to the Forza community. But so I would give it a C plus. I think if it was, and I mean, like, if the situation wasn't what it is, and they had to do this from their homes, and they had more time to get people, like developers and publishers, to clean up their own presentation, I think you could have had a better show. I think there was potential, but yeah, I think a little misleading in terms of what was going to be on offer. So I'm just looking at the screen. Jacob, what would be your ranking?
I mean, I only owned an Xbox like 20 years later, so I'm not as, like, I don't associate myself as an Xbox gamer. So for me, I mean, I'd give it a C. Yeah, exactly. I have my hat on backward. I have a wife beater on, basically. I mean, yeah, the games are fine. Like, there's a lot of games that are really interesting. It's just that, I mean, I was under the impression that there was going to be gameplay, and there's a lot of games that I feel like, you know, if you didn't pay attention from one game to the next, you could have said, oh, okay, well, this is like a continuation onto that game or something. It wasn't very clear.
It was, yeah.
So again, maybe next time to have a better kind of flow to it. And I think that's the reason why I look at Scarlet Nexus so highly, is because I'm like, oh, okay, I knew, like, once the trailer for the last game hit, and then the next one, I finally could, you know, fully grasp, okay, this is a new game, just because of how it looked, you know. And it kind of missed that. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was just a lack, like a good flow to the show all.
Yeah, there was a lot of times on the live stream where, I mean, I wasn't on the live stream, but I was watching it remotely. There was a lot of times where everyone was like, "Is this insert big series name?" And it never was.
Yeah.
Like I think we had, it was Dirt 5, there was Madden 21, and I guess Assassin's Creed were the only known. Oh, and
Yeah, that
Vampire
one was
were the only
known-ish.
known. Yeah, like those are the only ones that weren't new IPs, and they showed what, like 15 other games. So
And Yakuza.
oh, and Yakuza, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Oh, I forgot about that one. I don't know why. But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it was it's a weird way to show off these brand new games. Cool, Kevin. What would be your score?
I would probably go towards where you're at, but maybe a little less. Maybe C minus.
Okay.
I think saying gameplay was a trick, and they used it to pull us in, and it worked. And they had come out and apologized for doing that, and said, "Hey, maybe we should have been more clear, had better expectations for you based on what we actually had to show you." What they actually did show when I got there with the expectations I had was very okay, but
Right.
it wasn't like I'm jumping out of my seat. And there was an Xbox Series X fridge, so that was at least a little bit redeeming.
There we go. Some memes
So
came
there,
out of
I
that.
mean, yeah, give them that. That's about it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. And Zai, what about you?
I was actually gonna give them a C minus like Kevin, but then I kept
Yeah.
thinking about it, and honestly, I'm actually gonna give it a D plus. I don't think it even deserves a C.
Not even with the fridge.
Yeah, not even with the fridge was the reason it's the D plus, not a D minus. But
These
honest,
get degrees.
yeah. But I mean, honestly, you're showing it was a 27-minute show that had way too much dialogue. The schedule of it felt just very inconsistent. The lack of proper marketing and advertising as to what their show was. The games out of context are great, but in context, half of the times we didn't know the transitions to them. If this was a moment to launch, a big hype for your console to bring in a lot of gamers and new people. And I feel like it really dropped the ball on expectations, on quality of game showcase, on what they're showing. You can't just hobble together like, oh, let's just pull a couple of trailers from a bunch of different of the companies we have and put them in and call it like a great moment of gaming. It really was subpar to me. And
Yeah,
I think it reflected, yeah, it really reflected not only, because when I was watching it, there was a moment of, in my head, I'm like, okay, this is not good. Like, this is not going well. And then I said it out loud to Alex and Jeff, and to Kevin and Jeff. And then I minimized the screen, and that's when all the downvotes just started popping up. So it was
It was a lot of downvotes.
rough show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, good news is Microsoft's doing one of these per month until the launch of the Series X. So either that means we're in for a lot more D's and C's, or that they are like they fix their own process. So in June, the next one I don't think is like they've already
Hardware
begun
and
lowering.
specs.
Yeah,
Yep.
hardware and specs. They've begun lowering the expectations. I think a lot less people are going to be excited for what can this console do on a technical basis. Most people just want to see games, right? Like that is why we play video games, is for the games. So I think that one is going to be a bit more subdued and a bit more like they're going to talk about ray tracing a lot. They're going to talk about the SSD and loading times. But then in July, yeah, and that's hard to screw up. Like it shouldn't be too bad because they're only talking about one thing. And then in July, it's the first party blowout. So that's going to be a really interesting one to check out. Obviously, we only know about Halo Infinite as the only confirmed first party Series X game. But I wouldn't be like Microsoft bought up half of every developer on Earth, so I'm sure they've got games to show. What was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. They got Hellblade 2, and I'm wrong because there was also that Rare game. They showed it at the Game Awards.
The Overgrown or the Shrinking or the what?
The shrinking is
Isn't that Rare? Oh no, that's not.
That's Obsidian.
Yeah, you're right. What am I thinking of? What does Rare have? They had something.
Oh,
Gosh,
I gotta look it up though. Sorry,
this
sorry. I was
thing. I remember seeing going, okay, yeah, it was something. I keep thinking of yeah.
Everwild.
I keep thinking of Sea of Thieves. That's all I think about now.
Yeah, no, Everwild. They showed it at XO19 is when they showed it, not at the Game Awards. My
Ooh.
mistake.
Mm.
So this is one of the fun thing about googling rare games. It's you rate rare game and you get a whole bunch of rare video games, not games made by Rare. Should go back to being called Rareware. At least it made it a little simple. Anyway, so we'll move on from the Xbox Series X C minus average event. Talk about Cyberpunk 2077. So Cyberpunk 2077 got its ESRB rating, which basically just meant that it squeaks under an M into an M rating from an adults only rating. Based on some of the things that were in there, there's a lot of, let's just say, customization
Options
of yourself. Yes, there's going to be a lot of sliders, I imagine. But anyway, it's not what we want to talk about. One of the interesting lines is that in the description it says that there will be in-game purchases, and CD Projekt Red immediately came out and said. And here's a direct quote. As we've said before, Cyberpunk 2070.
One more.
Cyberpunk 2077
There
is
we
a
go.
single-player game with no microtransactions. The ESRB info is based on the fact that expansions require the base game and are therefore treated as a purchase by the rating board. So it sounds like they're just kind of getting their ducks in a row for when they eventually do release expansions for Cyberpunk, that they don't have to get the game re-rated, but that they are not going to have any microtransactions.
So now everyone's upset because you can't get genitalia piercings as a DLC or a microtransaction. Is that what we're getting at?
Get a stud.
But it has to be neon color.
Oh yeah, it's got to be cyber themed.
Right.
Metal and neon.
Yeah,
it works.
Got your yellow, blue, your green.
I'm quite happy that Cyberpunk is that CD Projekt Red is just so upfront with what they're doing, and the fact that they're making such a hopefully AAA quality game
Hopefully.
with no microtransactions, and a single player campaign expansions, sure, whatever. That I don't think that really gets itself counted into microtransaction. It's a macro transaction. It's a whole expansion, or know.
And if they're anything on the order of what The Witcher 3 got, no one will complain about it.
No, not at
I'm
all.
almost scared to keep comparing that game to Witcher 3 because it's like we have all these expectations, and are we going to get just not what we all think we're going to get? And so we're going to get a game that it's trying to give everything everybody wanted, and then it's not fun.
You know what? I don't think so. I really think Cyberpunk specific. So Cyberpunk, I played it back in the past when the original ones came out, with the top down, and I really think they have one of the main creator that was back on the original series, and I don't think CD Projekt is like a company that'll skimp out on their kind of qualitative vision. I think they see how they want it to look and they'll go for it. So I'm not really worried about expectations with that game and that company. Personally for me, I feel like they're, in my own opinion, like From Software's level of quality, where I don't think they would push something out they didn't think was up to their own standards.
I mean, they made the first Witcher game, but
intro 1 and 2, man, 1 and 2. Ooh, even 2 was okay in some areas, but not.
I think that, to be fair, I think they were published by Atari, which is a money pit of epic proportions. Like Atari is not a publisher you want to attach yourself to, so I don't think those games ever got a real shot at it. But yeah, I think Cyberpunk 2077, hey, I got it right, is one of those games that I'm very happy that they have come out and said it is not coming to next gen on day one. It is a PS4, Xbox One, and PC game at launch.
Beautiful.
And we will make it better later. So I could have. It could have been easy to worry that they're trying to fill this world for the next gen systems, and then it's bad on old gen, but empty on current gen. No, this is a current gen game right now. It will come to the other systems later, but that's reassuring to me. Like it's like, okay, good. You are not compromising your vision of this game.
Absolutely.
For the state of the industry, basically. And it should have been out by now too. Like it was delayed from March or April?
March.
Yeah, we should all be in quarantine playing this game right now. It's so sad it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe the next quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure The Last of Us 2 will come out on time. So,
that's the game.
But I remember when it was last E3, and we're watching all these trailers, and I made a comment that I want to take back. I've said this publicly a few times, and I want to apologize because I no longer think it'll be true. I said after E3 2019 that Watch Dogs Legion will have a higher Metacritic score than Cyberpunk. I don't think so anymore. I don't. I mean, we haven't seen anything from Watch Dogs Legion in a while, but I definitely am all on board Team Cyberpunk now. That game is looking absolutely insane.
Heck yeah.
So to pull in the chat here, I asked, are you guys excited for Cyberpunk or is it hype? And we didn't get a response exactly, but we have Mr. Niblick in the chat says Last of Us 2 equals overhype. So that's a shame. I disagree with that. Block.
I haven't heard any of the spoilers. I have kept away from all of that.
So I've read all the spoilers, and I absolutely do not want to discuss them on the show.
You read them all? Why?
I read every spoiler. It seemed more interesting at the time.
Oh my god!
I couldn't do it, man.
I've read every spoiler, and I get the feeling that there's going to be a lot of. I'm trying to say this in the least spoilery way possible. It's going to be a divisive game. Not everyone's going to like what they're doing with this game, and it being such a story-driven game, that's important. So it is a shame that it leaked out because the game's entire mystique is based on the story, right? You want that emotional payoff. I think it's going to be a very divisive game, but Cyberpunk, I feel like, is less story-driven than The Last of Us 2. It's more choose your own path, and you can create. Like it's all about customization, right? So I think they're going to do it. I think it's going to come out and be a solid game. Is it going to be Game of the Year?
Yes.
It's hard to say because.
I mean, what's the competition right now?
well,
everything's going to get delayed till the end of next year, so I don't think we have to worry about anything else.
But we don't know anything about the PS5 and the Series X launch games other than Dirt 5. So until we see those, like there might be more just competition for it. But like, I mean, you got Final Fantasy VII, which is this year too, and Ghost of Tsushima. Like these are big games. And actually, Xenoblade Chronicles comes out in a month, guys. We already know what Game of the Year is going to be.
I was asked, speaking of Xenoblade, I'm sorry to interrupt the show for this, but I was asked to ask you, because I don't really know a lot about Xenoblade, who is your favorite waifu in that game, or at all? I had a direct question, and I need that answered for a friend.
Okay, in the series or in the series?
In the
series. Time out. Explain the question for people like me who have no idea what the hell you even just asked.
Xenoblade has a lot of like wife bait material characters. So one of my friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, Alex. A good one. Or who do you think?
Well, it's just a weird question because I like a lot of the characters in this game, in this series, but I'm not like romantically interested in any of them, so I wouldn't marry any of them at any point because they're not. They're not. I don't know. They're not real. I'm not in love with a pillow or a. What was that? Oh, the person that married their love simulation on the DS. That was a fun thing from a million years ago. If I had to pick I'll do it this way. I'll pick my favorite female character, and the one I would like to hang out with the most is Poppy Alpha from Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
That's a name.
Poppy Alpha. Writing that in.
She is a robot who is programmed by this lecherous character who just kind of like wants her to basically be his live-in maid. But she's spunky and has attitude and puts him in his place.
I played through that game. I don't remember any of this creepy sex slave maid thing robot.
It's a specific one, but thank you, Alex, for answering that on stream for me. I appreciate that. My friend just got it.
We're also ordering you the pillow there, so it's coming in about 2 weeks.
We're getting the pillow for Alex.
I do have a collection of Xenoblade figures from Good Smile Company, which are I always have to explain to people when they come over. I'm like, yeah, they're action figures.
I have a whole wall of amiibos, so it's hard to explain that anyways. And I have the Xenoblade guy, so I guess that counts.
Yeah,
I don't even know his name.
Shulk is
Xenoblade guy.
It's
Xenoblade guy.
Oh, it's well, yeah, it's Shulk time.
Shulk, yeah, that guy.
In an Australian accent. I've completely lost our train of thought on what we were talking about.
We are on Article 3 for Animal Crossing.
All right, we're done talking about Cyberpunk. No one else has anything to say about Cyberpunk.
No, I'm sure we'll talk about it every week until it gets delayed again, and then we'll talk about it for another 6 weeks, and then we'll finally play it and talk about it and see how much we love it. Just to sum it all up.
I am keeping an eye on chat before we move to Animal Crossing. Kevin, Mistral wants to know, who is your favorite waifu?
I have no idea who would I even pick for that. Let's put a pin in it. I'll come back next week with a good answer here.
Cortana. I'd go with Cortana.
Cortana?
I'd take it. Smart and sassy.
All right. Jacob?
I don't have an opinion on this.
I don't know. I don't know who I'd pick.
Just your weeb trash out of here. Jacob's been, the Scarlet Nexus game. You gotta see, it's so good. And then we talk about anime. He's like, I don't fucking know. Weeb trash.
I don't know. I don't put much thought into waifu material, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big Fire Emblem fan. And anyone who's played the more recent, ever since Awakening on the 3DS, this Fire Emblem has gone half strategy game or turn-based tactics game and half wife simulator. So we didn't get the petting mini game in the North American version of Fates.
We're gonna have to change the classification of this podcast soon if we keep going down this
trail. This is just facts about the Fire Emblem series.
The petting simulation game.
Yeah,
it is a thing.
Those I think it got an E rating too. It was not a. Well, I mean, they're not graphic. It's just kind of it's very suggestive. But,
all right, so Animal Crossing.
Anyway,
let's take a look at Animal Crossing sales. We gotta hear about that. Please.
Derail the conversation.
The least suggestive game of all time.
So an island with a bunch of animals. You tell me what's going on there.
Animal Crossing: New Horizon. Nintendo has released the sales figure for the figures for the game. Putting it at 13.4 million copies sold. So that's a lot, considering the game came out on March 20th, so about a month and a half ago.
Well, that's a lot, just period. I mean, okay, looking up this, so you said, 15 million or something you said?
13.4.
Okay, so put that into perspective. Smash Bros., which is the second best-selling game, has sold 18.8 million. So, I mean... That's kind of close for a game that's only been out a few months versus a game that's been out for over a year. That's crazy.
Wow.
And just fun fact while I'm looking at it, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is a port from the Wii U, is the top-selling game with 25 million. Almost 25 million.
Yeah.
Continue, sorry.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just, it is an unstoppable beast. There will never be a Mario Kart 9 because Nintendo will just keep selling Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It needs more DLC, I will say. But anyway, back to Animal Crossing. I have opinions on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So one of the interesting things that they brought up here is a comparison to Animal Crossing New Leaf sales. So that's the 3DS game, which is really considered one of the best-selling 3DS games of all time. It did 12.55 million, copies in 6 years.
Wow.
So And that game got a major expansion, like 3 or 4 years into its life, that really boosted its sales up. So it's been selling pretty
But you know
consistently.
what
But
that game didn't have? Quarantine. I bet you if that
right.
game came out at the same time where everyone's told stay at home, don't leave, pretty much around the world, I bet you that game would have sold like hotcakes too.
Yeah, and there's also Animal Crossing came out in a desert of games for Nintendo specifically. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
There was trying to think of what they had in. Has Nintendo released anything else in this year, like a major first party game? Anyone? I can't think of any.
I can't think of one.
I can think of everything from the end of last year, but not this year.
Because last year wrapped up with Sword and Shield.
And Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion in October.
What was? There's got to be some. There was something in the beginning of the year in January, right? Am I?
There usually is, but I don't think so. I don't think they had one this year.
Charles,
Not
so
no,
much.
I really don't think there was one. Oh,
Right.
when did Link's Awakening come out?
Link's Awakening
Last
was
year?
September last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah,
But
no.
right before Luigi's Mansion. Yeah. So yeah, it came out in a bit of a desert. The Switch hasn't really had a lot of these like software droughts. I think this was the first big one for it, where it was like, hey, there's months without a game, and then there's going to be 2 months between Animal Crossing and Xenoblade, and then after Xenoblade, we know nothing about Nintendo's year. Like we know Metroid Prime 4 is in development. We know Breath of the Wild 2 is in development. There's all those rumors about because this is the 35th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers, so there's a lot of rumors that we're getting a big Mario game at some point. So it is curious to see where this all of that, like, what was this the perfect Animal Crossing storm? Did Nintendo engineer this so that there's just nothing around it for a solid chunk of time?
That's a smart move, if you think about it for Nintendo. Release, Animal Crossing during a time when, in between all of their typical big hits, Do you think, Alex, that Animal Crossing will eventually sell more than the 13.4? How far do you think it's really going to go?
Animal Crossing will sell for
Well,
a long time.
It hasn't even gone through a holiday season yet, so.
Right.
No.
And I think
Right.
as soon as that happens, I bet you we could almost double this, because that's where they do most of, especially because it's a children's type family game where children would play it. So I mean, that's going to be a stocking stuffer for sure at the end of the year. So I think if we get to that point, you're going to see that number double. That's going to be going
Right.
up just as fast as those dislikes were going up on that video on Thursday.
So fast.
I can definitely, and like the Switch is also hard to find right now, so there might be people who have been wanting to get Animal Crossing but can't find the console to play it on. I know my sister specifically, she's asked a few times, she's like, hey, can you help me find a Switch? I'm like, you and everyone else, like,
Hey,
sorry.
you better want to switch light.
Yeah, and the Switch Lite is available in, fairly often, or fairly commonly, but yeah, no, I can see if I was to give Animal Crossing a final sales number, I would say 40 million.
So
Wow.
I bet you we could see something like that, because it's
Well,
everyone. Not only that did everyone just go and buy a Switch right now, and they may or may not have bought Animal Crossing, but later towards the end of the year, now that all these people have Switches and they haven't had Animal Crossing, Grandma and Grandpa know, oh, they have a Nintendo Switch, we can buy them games for that, and they're going to see at the store that you ask the guy at the counter, little Jimmy wants a video game for his Nintendo Switch DS, which they won't know what it's called, and he'll go, okay, David Switch, then we'll give him Nintendo. Do they have Animal Crossing? Grandma says probably not, and then that's what they get. So right. I do. But before we move on, I want to say one quick point about Animal Crossing, because I had a traumatic event happen this week. So, as I mentioned in the first few episodes of this wonderful podcast we started, my wife had jumped into the world of video games with me and started playing Animal Crossing. And got addicted, put 180 hours onto my Nintendo Switch that I would like to use now. And it's become very addicted to that game. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy you a Switch Lite. And you're going to have your own Switch Lite. You can play it whatever you want. It's going to be pink. You're going to love it. Finally get it, pick it up. She puts the game on. We're on the same account. We have the family plan, whatever. You can do it. I go to try to transfer her save because I know Animal Crossing does not have cloud saves. You can't do it that way, but Nintendo offers on their games you can do a complete what do you call it? Like a transfer of managing your saves right
like
across.
A save migration.
Yep. So it'll take it from one system, deletes it, and then moves it to the other one. So I go to do that. Animal Crossing doesn't support it. So she's stuck on my Animal Crossing or her island on my Switch. You cannot move it as of right now. So now she's got this Switch she doesn't even really want because she literally only wanted it for Animal Crossing. She doesn't want to start over because she's like 185, 190 hours in. So now she was pretty disappointed, and I don't blame her. And I'm disappointed because I just started playing Trials of Mana. I want to play on my Switch. So yeah, it's complicated for a game is this popular. They don't have a feature for if something happens to your Switch or if you buy a new one. What I'm thinking, if my Switch breaks, that's it. There's nothing. She's done. 185 hours thrown away.
They did say that something is coming,
correct.
Which is really odd because they have like one of the big selling points of Nintendo Switch Online is cloud saves, and then your biggest game does not support it.
Yeah,
like it makes no sense to me. And I think their excuse was like, oh well, like we don't want people to time travel, and time traveling in that game gives you access to things earlier than you should have.
You can do it just on your own console itself. Like what?
And also, who cares? It's your island. Like cheat all you want.
This isn't an MMO where you're gonna take advantage and like you're getting all this stuff. Like who cares? You might get one extra design that someone on an island. I don't know. So it's pretty frustrating that they allow that and they are aware of it because they said it's coming. But to have a game come out and if something ever happens, God forbid, to my Switch or whatever, that's it. You're done. And I know that it was like that for a couple other games without the cloud saves, but you were able to do the actual migration of the stuff to another thing. But the fact that you can't even do that, I was pretty pissed. I'm not going to lie. So shame on you, Nintendo. Doug Bowser, get your shit together. This is dumb. Okay.
They'll get it right on the next online service. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Here's hoping.
I know what you're referencing there, Jacob. I tend to go on rants sometimes about the smallest minutia, and I was like, how come Nintendo has in 3 console generations had 3 different online services? Like they need to figure it out, and I don't understand the difference between like their Nintendo account but their like Switch account. Like it's so messed up, and they never got it right. So anyway, that's triggering to me of memories of the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, and I was like, oh cool, like this is going to be like Nintendo's thing from now on. It's no. Don't worry about it. But hey, they are a much bigger corporation with a lot more success than I am, so
at least they know, you know.
Jacob, do you have any thoughts on Animal Crossing?
I mean, I almost bought it.
Almost bought it.
I almost bought it, yeah. Jen, my wife, was asking about it too. She's like, oh, well, this looks really good. And I'm like, yes, but if I buy it, you're already playing a big game on the PS4 right now, just playing No Man's Sky and spending a lot of time on that. Mm-hmm. So, like, if I buy Animal Crossing, I won't have any of my consoles, and my gaming PC's put away because I'm working from home now.
The same mistake I did. Get a Switch Lite for her right now. Give it to her. They're not hard to find. Do not let her play in your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting thing with Animal Crossing is because it's so the Switch is so supply constrained right now, is that Animal Crossing New Leaf, so the 3DS games sales have shot up slightly. So it's actually it's been ever since New Horizons came out, New Leaf has been the top selling 3DS game on the eShop there. So it's just an interesting thing that I think a lot of people are seeing, that, hey, I can't get a Switch right now, but I can still get my Animal Crossing fix through the 3DS game, which is an excellent 3DS game. Like New Leaf is my favorite game in the series still today. So it's just interesting to see that people are sticking to it as their game of choice. It also is pretty interesting sometimes to read the sales charts on old systems like that and just kind of like have a look at like what people are buying on old systems. But anyway, maybe that's just me. So that does it for our news topics today. But longtime listeners will know that a few episodes ago, really I think right back at the beginning, we said we'd do a bit of a go around the table and discuss our favorite games, and maybe just a bit of our gaming history. So that obviously we're episode 5 in. We'd like to get to a way higher number than that. We just want you guys to get to know us a little bit. So we'll go around and just kind of like talk about our games habits, our game hobbies, and what our favorite games are. So does anyone want to get started, or should I?
You go first, since we've all taken the first chair except for you. So we'll ask you, Alex, what are your favorite games in your history? Tell us about you.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Let's hear.
All right. So in the beginning, so I got, our family got an NES in 1991.
We're starting at the very beginning.
Yeah, and this is just, I'm not going to go through every single year of my life.
Do you have a timeline
but
to put up on screen you can look at? Some
Yeah.
charts and slides.
So, yeah. In 91, we got an NES. And I'm 2 at this point. I was born in 89. And so this NES came with the combo cartridge of Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, and RC Pro-Am, which was a racing game made by Rare. So it's on the Rare replay. So some people may have played it there. And from that moment on, and like I didn't understand how to jump in Mario. I would always run into the first Goomba. I had to get mom or dad to like actually jump over the enemy because I didn't have the hand-eye coordination for it. But from that moment on, I was kind of into games. I was always obsessed with playing a video game, and we didn't have a lot of them growing up. So I still have that NES. It's here. I still have both those games. So my original cartridges. Yeah, I don't get rid of anything. So that's another thing about me.
I know, right?
It's why I have such a big game collection, is because I never get rid of things. And but yeah, I still have my old NES, but we didn't have a lot of games for it growing up. And oddly enough, we didn't have, and I say we because Jacob is part of this conversation as well. We didn't have a lot of Nintendo games, like first-party games. So we had stuff like The Guardian Legend, which is, I think, one of the best games on the NES, and no one ever talks about it. So check out The Guardian Legend. It's really, really good.
So in this time period, to get some perspective, how much older are you than Jacob?
So I'm 3 years old. So Jacob is born in 92.
Okay.
So he is like, I was playing games since before he was born, and like playing games. Like I wasn't
Jacob's the
beating games,
annoying
but
little baby brother who's trying to take everything from
You can use that on him. Be like,
Yeah.
you don't know it. I've been playing games since before you were even alive.
yeah. But yeah, so we had all the. I'm just thinking back of all the times I bullied Jacob into betting his Yu-Gi-Oh cards on like Smash Brothers games.
Jeez.
Awful.
Oh, those are good times too. Like I'll get into too.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about the 64 era for us, but so had the Guardian Legend. We had a game called Dino Wars, which was not very good, but like frig that we played. We played it like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then got a Super Nintendo, I think in like 92. So like the Super Nintendo was fairly new. And again, we didn't have a whole bunch of games. We had Super Mario World came with it. Then we had, what was one of those games that we had? Raiden, that top-down shooter. We had that. We had some horrible Star Trek game for it. And so all this to say, I really deep into the NES and Nintendo kind of thing. So had a 64, had a GameCube, had a Wii. The Wii was my number one console during the Xbox 360 PS3 days. As like all my roommates in college had like their HD consoles, and I'm upstairs playing like, I don't know, whatever people played on the Wii, Twilight Princess.
Smash Bros is about it.
Twilight Princess.
Smash Bros. Yeah, I played a
Red
ton
Steel.
of Brawl.
Resident
Red
Evil.
Steel, yeah, Red Steel, classic.
We seem to always go back to that game.
Yeah, I know. So I've always had more of like an affinity for Nintendo. So I do have my favorite game of all time here with me. So I'm going to show it for the screen. So it's The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yep.
So on the 64, I played Ocarina of Time first, obviously, and that was my first Zelda game, and I just fell in love with that series. Majora's Mask came out a few years later, and I played it I would finish a file in Ocarina, do a file in Majora, restart a new file in Ocarina, go back to Majora, and it was just a cycle. So absolutely love it. These days, I'm playing a lot of JRPGs. So we talk about Xenoblade a lot. It's because it's one of my favorite series. Really like the Xenoblade series. Really like the Final Fantasy series. Love the Fire Emblem series. Also a big PC gamer, especially like RTS games. So played Command and Conquer, StarCraft, put tons of times into those games. So and then Smash Bros. Smash Bros is a big part of my gaming, I'd say, self. Me and Jacob put thousands of hours into the 64 version, even more time into Melee. And then Brawl, I think my save file on Brawl, because you could actually see the counter on it, was like 700 hours. Wow. And then for Smash 4, so across the 3DS and the Wii U is another 700 hours. And then Ultimate, I'm pushing 200 right now, so I'm really into the Smash Bros. Games. But I do have an Xbox One, I have a PlayStation 4, so I am getting into the other side of gaming a lot. I've never
ventured out.
Well, ventured out, but also I was never like, oh, Sony sucks or Xbox sucks. Like I was not much of a fanboy. So it's more of like I'll play it. I could trust Nintendo to have the games I wanted to play because I grew up playing those games. So that's me. Like RPGs, like Zelda, like action adventure games. Love strategy games. So
what's okay? So over this long timeline and stuff. So give us like a quick top 5-ish. Name some games. What do you love? What did you love?
Top 5. All right. So
roughly.
Majora's
Mask. Doesn't have to be 5. Doesn't have to be in any particular order. Doesn't it? You can just be the moment you think of it right now. Just give me some names. Right. Let's hear that.
Okay, Majora's Mask number 1.
Okay.
Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one, the one that's getting a remaster in a few weeks. Would put that as number 2. Fire Emblem, I love the Fire Emblem games. I think they're all excellent. If I had to say a favorite one, it would probably be Fates. Three Houses is really good. I haven't done the DLC yet, and it's fairly new, so I want to play it a few times. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. Absolutely love that game. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but not the movies. I'm super critical of the movies. I think the movies are the worst part of Star Wars. The video game world and like the expanded universe was always a lot cooler for me, so I like that a lot. And then I would probably say like we'll go to like Final Fantasy IV is a really like one of my top favorites. Chrono Trigger. And I'll wrap it up with the old Command and Conquer games, the pre-EA Command and Conquer.
Okay.
Oh God.
So Red Alert 1, Tiberian Sun, Red Alert 2. Love me those games. So that's and then there's Mega Man. I love the Mega Man series. All right. I'm going to wrap it up because I'm just going to keep talking about the things I love, but I love the Mega Man series. Big fan of the X games.
Okay.
So
Well, that's a good
anyway, that's me.
A good little rundown of what's going on. So let's move it over to Jacob since you're close family here. So the next generation of gaming in your guys' household that we had. So what about you, Jacob?
Yeah, well, I mean, start out with the same type of scope as Alex. You know, we get a console, play it. I'd mostly watch Alex playing video games growing up. So I just remember watching him go through play, Mario on the Super Nintendo. I remember watching a lot of Diddy Kong Racing on the 64. For some reason, I always run back at that into my mind. And like I don't know, I was a lot younger. Well, a lot younger, you know. I would always I don't know why I would run around the house while watching Alex play, but like pretending I'm Diddy Kong or I'm the racer in the game. So I remember that a lot for some reason. I don't know. I guess I was full of energy back then. kind of dialed back down whenever I became older. I would have to say I really got into gaming whenever our father bought our GameCube, the Indigo GameCube, and it came with Rogue Squadron. Ooh. We played a shit ton of Rogue Squadron together.
Holy crap! Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just like, okay, we beat the mission, we go to the next. It's like, no, we need to get gold. We need to get the perfect score before we move on to the next game or the next level,
the next mission. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how slowly but surely I got into gaming, and obviously I played a lot of Pokemon. I still have my SP here, and I cleaned it up recently. That thing has like that thing played a lot of Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Gold, Pokemon, Ruby. Yeah, I played I played a lot of Pokemon, and then like Alex, rather than going to the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era of games, I decided, you know what, because of just being raised on Nintendo products, I decided to buy a Wii, and I also remember my mom buying me Monster Hunter, and that's one of my biggest gaming memories is playing so much Monster Hunter on the Wii. Monster Hunter Tri was my like go-to game on that console, and I've certainly, will say, expanded my gaming repertoire, where I have my PS4 now. I have my gaming PC. I have, went out and bought an original Xbox, went out and bought an original Sega. Because back in the day, too, like Alex was making a point, oh, he's not a fanboy, but back in the day, I remember going to a friend's house and, playing their Sega, and I was like, this is not Nintendo. And kind of upset for the fact that this was not Nintendo. I was like, why don't you own a Nintendo? They're like, well, because it's a Sega. I was like, yeah, well, fuck Sega. Like, why don't you own a Nintendo? Like, that was kind of like my mindset growing up, and that kind of carried over a little bit with Sony and Microsoft. We'll say my early teens, but kind of faded out of that whenever kind of saw that was kind of like kind of an topic to get into. Like, I know people still like all the console wars, and you have to pick one. I'm like, man, just play whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, right? But just to quickly glance over Smash Brothers, just because Alex brought it up, like we played so much Smash, like, and I remember playing like not like full on tournaments, but like going on to events and just playing like meaningful matches. I can't play for shit. Like I'm done first round. Doesn't matter. But the Smash matches me and Alex had, because we had our freaking holofoil Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or like our favorite hockey card on the line.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Matches were so intense, and I remember one match in particular. I think it was Christmas, and we were playing Smash 4 on the 3DS, and it was like a 20-minute match. It was 3 stock, and like it lasted 20 minutes. It was like the best Smash match ever.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can play 20 minutes on the 3DS playing Smash Brothers, but it was the best Smash match I've ever played. And I don't know, maybe it's that, sibling rivalry,
On the line.
Yeah. and like that even goes out of, I should say, that even goes out of gaming, like sports. Alex is a big Flyers fan. I'm a big Pens fan. We kind of like the opposite things. Then it comes together, and it makes for good gaming, essentially, or like watching hockey. It's always more intense in that way, I guess. Not to ramble on too long. I'll give my top 5 games here. I don't know. Well, number 1 is easy to kind of see. It's kind of posted on the.
Is that why you have a picture of Donkey Kong Country 2?
Yeah, I wonder why that's there, eh? Yeah, that has to be my go-to game. I love playing Donkey Kong Country 2. Like, just going back and back and back and back.
Yeah. It's not an easy game. It's I think it's that the haunted forest world is just brutally difficult. It's just that the wind that they throw into. Anyway, I want to go play Donkey Kong Country 2. I might do that after the show.
And a quick point on Donkey Kong Country 2 before I go to the other games. Outside of, like, let's say the Pokemon games where, you can beat them as a kid. It's easy. But Donkey Kong Country 2 was, like, one of the first games I've ever beaten. And just knowing that, it's a hard game to go back to and even play nowadays and, like, beat it to its fullest. Like, to get everything done, that's kind of a personal gaming achievement for myself. So, yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 is definitely number 1. I was thinking about this too, because we actually wrote a top 10 a while back on our top 10 favorite games, and like putting a list together kind of like throws me off, because it's like, as soon as you play another game, you're kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to add this game. But number 2 has to be Monster Hunter World. Just what they Monster Hunter universe in that game just kind of blew me away. I spend way too much time on Monster Hunter alone. But the world, like my PS4 is probably gonna like die before like I'm done playing that game. Number three, I'll go with Witcher 3.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Very good
I love the books. I got to read all the books, and I'm like one of the few people that actually played The Witcher 2 before Witcher 3. And Witcher 2 is an excellent game, and you guys were saying that it was an an game before. I'm very disappointed. But no, Witcher 3. Then we'll put Hard Gold and Soul Silver as number 4. Number 5. I'll put WoW just for the endless hours that I put 15 years into that game. It kind of has to be in that top 5 range there. So that's my top 5 and just a background of my gaming childhood per se. But I'll pass it on to somebody else because I felt like I've been rambling on for like way too long. Zai, please go ahead.
All right. So for me, my favorite. I'll start off with my favorite games of all time. Kind of spice it up here. My favorite game of all time would be Final Fantasy VIII.
Very good.
Mainly because the first game ever. I know we had a Sega when I was like a really little kid, but I don't actually really remember playing much on it. But the first major console we ever purchased was a PS1, and first game I ever really recall playing was Final Fantasy VII with my brother, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. But in terms of the Final Fantasy franchise, 8 is my favorite. And then when 8 came out a year later, or about a year and a half or two later, it was the game. I played that game 100%. All me and my brother. We were really into it. So Final Fantasy has always been near and dear to my hearts personally, and it's allowed me to go back and play other older Final Fantasies, and then follow up with the new ones, the FF7 remake, and 15, for example. But then my other favorites would be Halo 2. So Halo 2 is my preferred. My first choice when it comes to the best FPS of all time. Making multiplayer a big deal on Xbox, kind of pushing the whole movement forward with online play. Bungie at the apex of their height. Nothing to discredit Destiny right now, or Halo 3, or Reach, or ODST, or any of the titles, but when Halo 2 was around, man, the Xbox community was live and kicking, and it was really one of the big launch points towards multiplayer, because before that there was like SOCOM and fighting games that were online, if that. So Halo 2 has a real special place personally for me. The list afterwards gets a little bit better. Those are my 2 favorites of all time. But if I were to say any of the other games, what would be a good game, Zahi? So before I think of another good game, I guess I have always focused in terms of gaming on more quality of a game. Story is my main element. I think I've mentioned it before on our cast. If I feel like the game hooks me in, that's where I tend to gravitate towards. I've jumped between Sony and Microsoft. I've never really owned a Nintendo. That's why I rely so much on Jake and Alex's expertise in the field. So much so for that. But my main platforms have always been PlayStation and Xbox. And whether or not Xbox is better than PS4 or vice versa, I really don't care as long as the game I want is there. So for me, if you can get me, I don't really care what kind of game it is, but if you can get me, it has a good story. I like the themes of it. The characters are developed, and it's not just a bunch of stuff piled together. That's where my real gaming has to fly. I care more about, the quality of the product. I don't care, like, if it's a brand new title, whatever it is, if it's a new IP, I'm good. But for me, it's the quality in terms of its story, what it's trying to say. And lastly, I think probably the most significant game I've ever played in my own life would be Dark Souls. Dark Souls, and from a popular From Software game. While it's not the first in the series, which started with Demon Souls, but Dark Souls is once you get past the brutalness of the game, it's a bit unforgiving. It is, I know, but Dark Souls goes back to the what I was saying earlier in terms of its like themes and story wise. It If you look for it, you can find it. Personally, for me, and I guess at the time, it was what came out in 2011, and I was going through a lot of change in my own life with school, education, moving out, and Dark Souls. At the time it came out, there were so many games that were just all hand holding, and it was just here maps and take us to this place, and it's just everything felt so linear. Dark Souls to me felt one of the most fully realized games I've ever personally played, and at a time when I was still kind of growing up, this game that was kicking my ass kind of taught me a little bit of perseverance and pushing through. So, Dark Souls would be, I guess, my number 3 pick of my all-time favorite games of all time, and that is my gaming history. Kevin, you're up.
All right, I'm glad you guys took a while because while you were all talking, I was Googling and trying to figure out things that I was going to put and try to list them. So I have it sorted slightly by generation, and I'll try to go quickly about where I've come from gaming-wise and everything. So I started off in the great year of 1991, being born into the world, and I had a NES, and that's all I had for quite a while. I had a bunch of random garage sale games that I played with that I didn't really know what I was doing. And one beautiful day, I got a PlayStation. And my brother and I had to share it. My brother's I think 17 months younger than I am, so we're pretty close in age. And we had Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot. That was all we had. So we would play those a ton. And we would just take turns, mostly arguing, and play through that. And then we had neighbors that were kitty corner to us. They had N64. So they didn't have a PlayStation. We didn't have an N64. So we kind of bonded over the fact that, okay, well, we better become friends because we want to play each other's games because they're playing all these cool Nintendo games and I have nothing that they have, et cetera, et cetera. So we played through a lot of that. That was a good period of gaming for me because we played, N64 had all the Pokemon Stadium games, which I was addicted to. Zelda, any of the big titles. Paper Mario, one of my games I just loved from N64.
Yep. It's a great game.
Even the GameCube
really
one was
game.
good until they screwed it up on the Wii, but oh well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And they continue to butcher it on the 3DS, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. I don't want your damn stickers. Anyways, N64. I also played. I used to love the game Glover. Did you guys ever play that? It's such a weird ass game that I had that I thought was so fun. And then a game called Silicon Valley, which I think one of us talked about on here before.
Space Station Silicon Valley.
Yep, that's what I think it was. Us that talked about it. That was a game I played a ton of. And then moving to the next generation, I grew up a little bit. We got ourselves a PlayStation 2. Oh no, actually we got an Xbox, and then our neighbors ended up having the PlayStation 2. And then we kind of switched them. I think we both got a GameCube. I can't remember how that worked, but played a lot of random stuff there. Halo was big in my life. I played a lot of LAN party. That was big. My family owns a movie theater, so we did a big LAN party at the movie theater playing Halo, and that was
that's cool.
That was pretty epic. It's one of my best memories I got. Played. We used to go camping, which my family has a camping trailer, so they would be in the camping trailer, and then me and all my friends, we had this big 18-person tent, and we had a portable TV, and we'd bring our original Xbox in there. We'd play Morrowind all night long. We would just make new characters, and we'd sit and cite the beginning. My brother can literally recite the whole beginning where he goes, "Ah, yes, we've been expecting you," and we've done it so many times. We used to play a lot of Mech Assault. That was a big game with all of us, me and my friends.
Yeah.
And then for my single player stuff, I loved BioWare, everything they had out at that time period coming out for Xbox. KOTOR, obviously, huge fan of that.
Yep.
Jade Empire was one of my favorite games. I adored that game, thought it was so cool. And then on GameCube, we did get, we played a lot of Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine. I loved Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. That was a big favorite of mine. I used to play a lot. And a random game I'd mention is there was a game from Universal Studios where you'd be in the park and you would play mini games based on the attractions. It was a really stupid game. I don't know where we got it, if my mom bought it for us or something. But me and my brother and then my friends, they were both the same age as us. We took a night. We tried to 100% this game because it was so dumb. We're like, we can 100% this, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't beat the stupid Jurassic Park level. But check it out. It's a cool game. Then moving on, A little bit. We played a lot of the 007 games. We didn't play any of like
GoldenEye.
I played GoldenEye, but it wasn't like something big that I played. But it was not until Agent Under Fire and Nightfire. Those ones were big games in my life. We played a lot of those on GameCube.
I've never played them, but I own all of them. They were all there was a microplay that was selling, like
they're fun,
closing shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were like $5 each for GameCube games, and I got all these old James Bond games, all these
good.
old like.
I mean, they were good. I don't know if they're good now because I don't know how the controls were, to be honest. But man, I had so much fun in those games. The single player was great, and then to piggyback off of those, there Time Splitters 2, I think it was. I used to play that just a crap ton, and it was very similar in some ways to those James Bond games, which I liked.
Yep.
Okay, jumping forward a little bit towards like 360-ish time period. Obviously Skyrim, just building off of my Morrowind love. Elder Scrolls games in general are just great. I was addicted, and me and my friends, because I was in college when this came out, just starting, Alan Wake. And I remember I used to have a bunch of people over, and I'd play the game. We'd make popcorn and sit around late at night while playing Alan Wake, and we'd all be freaked out because it was so stupidly scary at some points, even though it wasn't that scary. That was a game. It's not, but we'd all like dramatically make it scary. I don't know. We used to play through that, and then Uncharted. We'd all sit around and watch. I got really into the first Borderlands. That was a big game I played a lot of. BioShock, I was obsessed with. I thought those were just like masterpieces back then. And then getting closer to Future Day, definitely been playing a little bit more of everything now that I've kind of understand gaming a little bit older. God of War is one of my favorite games I've played in the last 10 years that came out recently. Last of Us, and everything we've talked on here. But my top 5-ish games, with no particular order that I kind of build off of, I have to put WoW in there because I've played WoW since I think I started like 2 months after release, 3 months after release, so I've been in there for a while. I put / Hearthstone because that game kind of took over my life for like 4 or 5 years and still continues to take over my life little by little. So just those Blizzard, just everything Blizzard does that. Fable was a game that I always played a lot of and hope for a true, real sequel to come out within the next few years.
One day.
Really wish they would do that again. Pokemon, I spent most of my life playing Pokemon games. Just everyone, I've got at least 30 to 40 hours in every single one, if not playing them multiple times. Elder Scrolls, and then one of my favorite games, just kind of not a series, I guess it is now, Ni no Kuni. I randomly stumbled upon that game on the PlayStation 3 and had no idea what it was, had no background about it, and I put in like 115 hours into that game, and I was obsessed with it. The second one I think is pretty good, but it doesn't capture the magic of the first one, I think, because you used to capture like the little pets and stuff. But yeah, so that's me. That's most of my... I play a little of everything. I've got a PC, a Switch, a PS4, an Xbox.
You had a Switch. Well, you had a Switch.
So I did have a Switch till my wife took it over. But I also do have a Switch Lite myself, so I do also have that, so that I can kind of get away with. But I like playing on the TV. Fair. All right, that was it.
That's fair. Yeah, cool. Hey, we did it. We finally did the thing we were going to do many episodes ago. So I hope that just kind of lets everyone know, like, kind of who we are when we talk about games. So I think we all have, even like me and Jacob, even though we grew up together, have very different backgrounds. Like Jacob was so into WoW and Monster Hunter, and I couldn't care less about those games. I did get into WoW eventually, but there was a time where I was like, whatever, this dumb games. But it's nice that we all have these different starting points and different histories with it all. So hope you guys enjoyed that little segment. But that is pretty much it for this show, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to discuss or bring up. I think
no, it was
wrap up time now.
Week in general, not with like other than the Xbox disaster that happened on Thursday, but
so there are rumors on the grapevine, and we might hear about it in the next few days. Again, these are rumors, and I have sources for rumors that I keep an eye on. That we are not too far away from the PlayStation 5 reveal event. And that Sony is not doing this little, here's a little bit of this, here's a little bit of that, but it would actually be a reveal event So it will be very interesting to see if that does come down this week. But there's a lot of people who seem to be indicating that it might. So hopefully next week we'll be able to share some thoughts
That would be
on
fun. Something more than a controller.
Yeah, something more than the controller and just scouring patents for little bits of information. So yeah, it is. I mean, it's a rumor. Who knows if it will happen or not? But we'll definitely be here next Sunday to discuss that if it needed or whatever else happens. But yeah, I guess that's our show. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed. Where can they find us, everyone?
So don't forget, everyone, to send us an email at general.mail@linkcable.com. Tweet us at linkcable1 and subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. Hopefully soon Mixer. And make sure you check all your favorite apps for podcasts. We're going to be uploading all of our podcasts there, thanks to our good man, Kevin. Yep. And we will see everyone for our next show. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming to watch.
Thanks. Take it easy, guys.
Cool. All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.